I know what your morning looks like. Someone else spills their drink on you, and you apologize to them. Your phone rings at an inconvenient time, and you spend the next 10 minutes apologizing to everyone in the room, even the ones who didn't notice. You've been told you're too apologetic, too soft, too eager to take the blame for things that have absolutely nothing to do with you. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that this constant apologizing was a personality flaw, a sign of weakness, maybe even evidence that deep down you believe you are fundamentally in the way. But I am here today to tell you that this diagnosis is wrong. You are not weak, you are not broken, and you are certainly not a people-pleasing pushover with no self-respect. What you are is someone whose nervous system learned a very specific survival strategy, and that strategy, for a very long time, kept you safe. Today, we are going to look at the neuroscience behind why you apologize for everything. We are going to understand the biology underneath the behavior. And then, and this is the important part, we are going to give you a way to stop that does not require you to become someone cold, hard, or unkind. Because that is the fear, isn't it? You are not afraid of stopping. You are afraid that if you stop apologizing, you will become someone you don't like, someone selfish, someone who hurts people without caring. Neuroscience says that fear is completely unfounded, and by the end of this, you will understand exactly why. To understand yourself, we need to change the way you think about what an apology actually is. Most people think of an apology as an admission of guilt. You did something wrong, so you apologize. But for people like you, an apology is not about guilt at all. Think of it like a fire extinguisher. When someone pulls a fire extinguisher off the wall, they are not saying, "I started this fire." They are saying, "I need this fire to stop before it." Spreads and destroys everything. That is what your apologies are. They are not confessions, they are interventions. Your brain learned very early, possibly in childhood, that tension in a room is dangerous, that conflict has a cost, that the fastest, most reliable way to make discomfort stop is to take responsibility for it, whether or not you actually caused it. So you developed a very efficient fire extinguisher. The problem is that you are now walking around in rooms that are not on fire, pulling out your extinguisher anyway. Because your brain is so well trained to detect the faintest trace of smoke, a slightly raised voice, an awkward silence, someone's disappointed expression, that it triggers the alarm before you've even had a chance to think. You are not a pushover. You are a highly sensitive system running an outdated safety protocol. And the goal today is not to throw away the fire extinguisher. The goal is to recalibrate when you actually need it. Neuroscience has identified 3 specific mechanisms in your brain that explain why this pattern runs so deep, and why it feels almost impossible to turn off. Deep inside your brain is a structure called the amygdala. Its job is to detect threats and trigger a response before your conscious mind even knows something is happening. For most people, the amygdala fires in response to clear, obvious threats, a loud noise, a physical danger, an aggressive tone of voice. But research on people who over-apologize shows something remarkable. Their amygdala fires in response to social micro-threats. Things like a brief pause in conversation, a slightly furrowed brow, the way someone said your name with just a fraction more weight than usual. You are not imagining these signals. Your brain is genuinely detecting them, processing them as potential dangers, and initiating a threat neutralization response. That response is the apology. This is why you apologize before you've even finished thinking. It is not a choice, it is a reflex. Your amygdala fired and your mouth moved before your prefrontal cortex, the rational, decision-making part of your brain, had any say in the matter. Understanding this matters enormously. It means your apologizing is not a character defect. It is a nervous system that is working exactly as it was trained to work. You have probably heard of fight, flight, and freeze. These are the three classic responses to perceived threat. But psychologist Pete Walker identified a fourth response that is particularly common in people who grew up in environments where conflict was unpredictable or emotionally costly. He called it the fawn response, where fight pushes back, flight runs away, and freeze goes still, fawn appeases. It moves toward the threat and attempts to neutralize it through warmth, agreement, and submission. The apology is the purest expression of the fawn response, and critically, research shows that fawning is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of extraordinary emotional intelligence deployed in the service of survival. People who fawn have extremely high capacity to read a room, attune to another person's emotional state, and predict what response will de-escalate tension. These are genuinely sophisticated social skills. The problem is not the skill. The problem is that the skill is now running automatically in situations that do not require it. You are using a scalpel to cut bread. The tool is excellent. The application is wrong. Here is the part that most people miss entirely when they try to understand the chronic apologizer. You do not just notice other people's discomfort, you absorb it. Neuroscientists have found that people with high sensitivity show significantly greater mirror neuron activation, the neurons responsible for empathy, when observing someone else in a negative emotional state. What this means in practical terms is that when someone around you is uncomfortable, frustrated, or disappointed, your brain is not just observing that state from a distance, it is simulating it internally. You are literally experiencing a version of their discomfort inside your own body. The apology, then, is not just about managing their feelings, it is about managing your own. When you say sorry, you are not just trying to make them feel better. You are trying to stop the feeling of their discomfort that your nervous system has already taken on as its own. This is why telling yourself, just stop apologizing, never works. You are not apologizing because you think you should. You are apologizing because the emotional pressure building inside you from absorbing someone else's state has become physically uncomfortable. And the apology is the fastest release valve you have. If chronic apologizing was truly a weakness, if it served no purpose at all, evolution would have eliminated this pattern thousands of years ago. It didn't. It kept it. And the reason is fascinating. In every social group throughout human history, there was always a tension between individual assertion and group cohesion. Too much individual assertion and the group fragments. Too little and hierarchy becomes oppressive. The tribe needed people who could feel the tension in a room before it became conflict, who could soften the edge between two people headed for a collision, who could absorb the emotional static in a group and convert it into something manageable. These were the social architects of the tribe, not the warriors who resolved conflict through dominance, the diplomats who prevented conflict from igniting in the first place. That is you. Your sensitivity to social tension, your speed at detecting discomfort, your instinct to immediately move toward reconciliation. These are not liabilities. These are the skills of someone who, in another context, would be described as a master negotiator, a gifted therapist, an extraordinary leader. The problem is that modern life does not always give your skills the right context. In a world that rewards directness, assertion, and taking up space, someone who reflexively shrinks and apologizes looks like they have no backbone. But do not mistake a skill deployed in the wrong environment for the absence of a skill. You do not need to develop a backbone. You need to learn to choose when to use the gift you already have. So here is the prescription. Not stop apologizing. That is not a strategy. That is just a command your nervous system will ignore. Here is what actually works. Strategy 1. The pause and name practice. Remember that your apology fires before your prefrontal cortex gets involved. The goal of the first strategy is to create just enough of a pause to let your rational brain catch up. The moment you feel the urge to apologize, that familiar tightening, that rush to fill the silence, do not fight it. Simply name it internally. Say to yourself, threat signal, amygdala firing. This single act of naming activates the prefrontal cortex. Neuroscientists call this affect labeling, and studies at UCLA have shown that the simple act of labeling an emotional response reduces amygdala activation almost immediately. You are not suppressing the urge. You are creating a half-second window in which you can make a choice. In that window, ask one question. Did I actually cause harm here? If the answer is yes, apologize. Genuinely, specifically, and without excessive groveling. If the answer is no, the apology is not yours to give. Strategy 2. Replace sorry with thank you. Same warmth, different direction. This is the strategy that will change your relationships the fastest. Every unnecessary sorry can be replaced with a genuine thank you, and it changes the entire dynamic of the interaction. Instead of, sorry I'm late, try, thank you for waiting for me. Instead of, sorry for rambling, try, thank you for listening. Instead of, sorry to bother you, try, thank you for making time. Notice what this does. The sorry positions you as the person who did something wrong. The thank you positions the other person as someone who did something generous. The warmth is identical, the empathy is identical, but the power dynamic is completely different. You are no longer the one in the wrong. You are the one expressing genuine gratitude. And crucially, you are no longer training yourself and everyone around you to expect you to take responsibility for things that are not your fault. Strategy 3. Recalibrate your definition of kindness. The deepest reason you cannot stop apologizing is because you have unconsciously fused apologizing with being a good person. In your mind, on some level, not apologizing feels like becoming someone cruel. This is the belief that has to change, and here is how to change it. Research on emotional boundaries, particularly from psychologist Harriet Lerner, shows that people who maintain clear, consistent limits are actually rated as more trustworthy and more genuinely caring by the people in their lives than people who constantly accommodate and apologize. The constant apologizer signals, unintentionally, that their words and feelings are negotiable, that their time has no value, that their needs are always secondary. This trains the people around you to treat you accordingly, not because they are bad people, because you taught them what to expect. The greenhouse is not a cold place. It is a place where things are tended, protected, and given exactly what they need to flourish. You can be warm and also hold your ground. You can be empathetic and also decline to take responsibility for things you did not do. That is not selfishness. That is the highest form of respect for yourself and for the people you are in relationship with. So the next time you feel that familiar surge, that rush to say sorry before you've even thought it through, take a breath. Remember that you are not a flawed person with no backbone. You are a finely calibrated nervous system that was built to protect the people around you. You are someone who feels the temperature of a room before anyone else has even noticed the weather changing. You are someone whose instinct toward peace and reconciliation is not a weakness. It is one of the most quietly powerful things about you. You do not need to harden yourself. You do not need to stop caring. You just need to stop carrying everyone else's discomfort as if it were your fault. The fire extinguisher is still yours. You just get to decide which fires actually need it. And when you start choosing that, when you start reserving your genuine, heartfelt apology for the moments that truly deserve it, something remarkable happens. People start to trust you're sorry, because it means something now, because it is specific, because it is real. You were never the problem. You were always the person who cared too much to let anything go unrepaired. Now it is time to apply that same care to yourself. If this resonated with you, it might be because the pattern runs deeper than just apologizing. For a lot of people who over-apologize, there is a connected pattern around belonging, a feeling of never quite fitting in, of always existing slightly outside the room. If you want to explore that, the next video goes into exactly that. Subscribe to DeepMind, and see you in the next one.